Before we get started, wanted to just have a moment of silence for the victims of the shooting in Boulder, Colorado yesterday, and also for the victims of the shooting last week in Atlanta. So we'll just take a moment for that.
Wow. Yeah, it kind of does make you realize that we do live in a violent world, and it makes the need to pursue peace even more. Reminds us how relevant it is and how necessary it is. Um, so yeah, our prayers and thoughts are for the families and the victims in both of these shootings, and we hope that there'll be fewer and fewer of them as time goes on, and hopefully our efforts can help with that. Really kind of the spirit of Peace Catalyst is a desire to bring peace between Muslims and Christians primarily, but we're not limiting it to that. And by having these conversations and getting to know people who aren't like us and learning how to listen, learning how to choose a path that leads intentionally to peace. And I think that's really, really key. It's very important. Those are things that we're hoping to talk about on this podcast. And so today it's live. All right. We've actually recorded several episodes already, and they're in the bank, as they say. Hurannessa we were very blessed to have you be our first guest. So I guess we should probably introduce ourselves maybe, and then maybe talk a little bit more about the podcast and what's coming up and everything. I guess since I'm talking, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself quickly. My name is Keith Giles. I work with Peace Catalyst. My wife, Wendy, and I are in El Paso, Texas, and we've only been working with Peace Catalyst a little over a year. I also, I'm an author. I have a new book coming out today. Yay. And I blog and do some other things like that. I'm pretty active doing those things as a writer and a blogger. But I really care a whole lot about the mission of Peace Catalyst, and specifically helping Christians understand really what it means to follow Jesus in this path of peace, to be a peacemaker, to be an ambassador of reconciliation. What does that mean? And what does that look like? To follow Jesus in this path. Oh, yeah, we're live. So anyway, I'm really glad to be invited to be a co-host on the podcast, and to be joined by Becca. Becca is an amazing co-host, and I lean on her a lot for this. So Becca, introduce yourself too, and let them know about yourself.
It's generous of you, Keith. And yeah, it's great to be here. And I love this podcast. It's such an awesome time of learning from, leaders like Hurannessa, and just getting to connect with different peacemakers from all different backgrounds. And my work is with Peace Catalyst International in the Washington, D.C. area. And Hurannessa and I actually work together for peace. We collaborate, and she has been connected to Peace Catalyst even a long time before I was. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, and Hurannessa, you were our very first guest on the podcast. So this will go down in history forever, good or bad. You are the first guest, but it was very good. I just want you to know. And today's and the episode with you as our guest is live as of today. So people can go and listen to that. Hopefully after this, go and listen to that conversation. But welcome, Hurannessa. Thank you for being willing to come on camera and help us kick off the podcast. Welcome. Thank you. And briefly let people know a little about yourself and the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Keith and Becca. I really appreciate it. I'm actually really honored to be the first person to get interviewed on your podcast. And it means a lot, especially since I have such an amazing relationship with PCI and the work that we've done together. So I live in the Northern Virginia area. I head the outreach department at the Old Dulles Area Muslim Society, and I'm also the director of outreach for Multi-Faith Neighbors Network. So I'm working two jobs. And I took on the second job because I felt that it was exactly where I wanted to go career wise and where my passion lies in peace building and being a woman from the Muslim faith and having that being represented. It was something that I felt was God's calling and an honor for me to be in that position. And I've been working with PCI now for, I think, over almost 3 years.
Oh,
Um, Even when Rick Love was alive and he pulled me in. I have a lot of great memories with him. And I'm so sad that he's no longer with us, but his work continues. And the love of peace building that he had, I think, is something that resonates through everyone through PCI. And so I'm so excited to see what more we can do to make the world a better place.
yeah. That's so great. Thank you, Hurannessa. And sadly, I never got to meet Rick Love. I think we were aware of each other. He might have been reading some of my blogs or something, and I think he initially had recommended that Martin Brooks, who's the current director of Peace Catalyst, he put us together, and so it was through my connection with Martin. But it was only because Rick, suggested that Martin reach out to me. And so, yeah, it is very sad that we lost him. But what a vision and what an amazing heart and to create something like this. And Peace Catalyst, just briefly, I guess, just to say a little bit about Peace Catalyst, or I'll say a little bit about how I discovered Peace Catalyst. Wendy and I lived in Idaho for only a year, and that was a little over a year ago. So we very recently moved away. So we very briefly lived in Idaho. But during the year we were there, we met Nick and Laura. I'm thinking about Nick. I'm seeing Nicole Gibson's name here, who's our producer. Nick and Laura Armstrong, and they work. We met them, the wonderful couple, and they work with Peace Catalyst there in Idaho, and they invited us to a peace feast. And a peace feast is really simply, it's just getting Christians and Muslims to come together and share an amazing meal. We had this incredible Middle Eastern meal that was just awesome, and just sat across the table from someone who's not like you. And we had the most spontaneous and beautiful conversations. We didn't talk to each other as Christians and Muslims. We talked to each other as parents. One Muslim woman had a daughter who was getting ready to go to college, and she was worried about that and her being away from home, and would she still continue to, follow her faith? And, every parent at the table was able to just jump in as a parent, as a human being, and just say, well, here's some advice, or here's what happened to us, or don't worry about that. And we were just talking, across those those boundaries of religion, or, the things that divide us, ethnicity and things like that. And it was really wonderful. And it's fascinating how easy it is to really just sit and listen. And suddenly realize that those people that you think are so different from you are really not different at all. And I think that's really the first step in peacemaking, is recognizing, what you have in common, rather than focusing so much on what you disagree on. So yeah, we enjoyed that. That was just such a wonderful experience. And then we moved to El Paso, and it was like, I wonder if we could start one here. And so we've been doing that again just a little over a year, and it's been awesome. So Becca, what do you have a story? How did you get involved with Peace Catalyst? How did you get into this whole thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd love to share, and I'd love to hear, we kind of heard Hurannessa's story, but more about her journey to peacemaking. Yeah, I got involved shortly after grad school. I was studying at American University, their International Peace and Conflict Resolution program, and was really kind of being reminded of the beauty of multi-faith relationships, even during grad school. Like, some of my closest friends were Muslim, and in undergrad, I had lived with a Muslim host family in Jordan, and it just opened my eyes to, how much we have in common, how beautiful those friendships can be, and how much more effective we can be at creating the kind of communities we want when we partner together, when we work together, and come alongside each other. So Peace Catalyst just stood out to me because of that, and because it was a faith-based organization that is basically saying, like, we're Christians and we believe that building peace with our neighbors good, is the right thing to do, and here's how we do that. So that kind of pulled me in.
Yeah. And then you met, that's how you met Hurannessa, right?
Yes, yep. She was already plugged into PCI, and David Vidmar just connected us. And I think our first meeting, we had lunch at Silver Diner
Yes,
in Virginia.
that was fun. I was so happy that I finally had a Christian counterpart, because I was doing a lot of the stuff here by myself. And when they told me, like, yeah, we found Sana, I was so happy. 'Cause I was like, the other piece is missing. Someone help me. And so Becca came on. We clicked right away. I think our personalities are just really the type where we jive really well together. Since then, we've become really close friends, not just people who work together and who are trying to fix things or trying to bring people together, but also she knows a lot about me personally. I know a lot about her personally. And that adds to the relationship. And those are key things in keeping people connected to one another. So I'm really honored to have Becca as my friend. She sends me Eid gifts and Christmas gifts and drops off sweets to my house, like even during COVID. And I'm just like amazed at her generosity and her care. And she's such a sweet person. So I'm just out of words, I guess, to express how I feel about her.
I was just getting ready so I could ask you to sing at my wedding. That's the only reason.
I am going to sing at your wedding, of course. I have the song picked out, so we're good. I'm ahead of the game.
Oh, that's so great. That's great. And then, it is important too. I think the partnership is such an important part of it as well. Like, rather than take this kind of Lone Ranger attitude, I'm going to do this, I'm going to fix this. We definitely do need one another. And certainly, being able to work with someone who has the same heart and the same desire to bring peace and to bring people together, it's so important. So, we talked about this on the podcast episode. Again, that's available today. And we did decide that we were going to launch a podcast. We felt like, Peace Catalyst is doing so much amazing work all around the world. Most of it face-to-face, even in COVID, that's very challenging, of course, and it's challenging to many peacemaking efforts right now, not being able to do face-to-face gatherings or have meals together and things like that. But, we're doing our best to kind of compensate for that. And we thought, well, a podcast is a great way to spread the word, get things out there, people who are interested in peacemaking, just in general, and giving some, really, I think what we wanted to do in this first series, Hurannessa, you're helping us kick off. The first series, what we decided to do was to do an entire series talking to, number one, Muslims, not Christians, but let's talk to Muslims who are doing peacemaking work, because we know we have a whole lot to learn. And we decided to not just talk to Muslims specifically, but to speak to Muslim women. And I think that was also a very important decision, because it helps us realize, it's true in Christian circles. And I think I've heard rumors that may be true as well in Muslim circles. Sometimes men do all the talking, like now. And women, we need to give women more voices, more opportunities to share and speak, because again, there's a lot of wisdom there and a lot we can learn. So yeah, we were able to have some really amazing conversations. Do you remember, Becca? I can't remember off the top of my head who's on the list for our series on women.
Yeah, we have obviously Hurannessa, and Nicole Gibson just posted in our chat. You can listen to our first episode with Hurannessa on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and I think there's another one that I'm missing. That might be it. Anywhere you get podcasts, you can listen to her episode as soon as we're done with this live stream. But we had Anila Afzali, who's based in Seattle, Washington. We had the women from Eat with Muslims, also based in Washington State. We had Nyla Demerel, who's a close friend of Peace Catalyst, based in Louisville, Kentucky. And we also had, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the other person.
It's a surprise. It's a mystery.
Yes, a surprise.
You'll all get to find out. Well, I'd see we're talking in the past tense, but of course, for you as the listeners, Today, you'll get to listen to the first episode with Hurannessa. Those other ones that we're talking about will be coming out. So I guess we should explain that, right? We're going to be on an every other week release schedule. So today is our first day of release for the first episode. So the second episode won't release next week, next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, right? So that'll be April, what is that, 6th? Am I right? Yes, April the 6th.
Yeah.
So episode 2 will be out April 6th, and we'll continue on this every other week schedule. And it does help us and you to keep up with it if you would subscribe to the podcast on any of those platforms, Spotify, Podbean, Apple. And if you do listen to the podcast and you enjoy it, ratings and reviews also really help a lot for the podcast to get boosted in those platforms, to be recommended to other people interested in a similar topic. Sorry, this is all the back end kind of, administration stuff, technical things, but it does help. So if you subscribe and if you rate and review us, it helps us a lot, and it'll also help you keep up with future episodes so you won't miss anything. And then when that series is finished, we have the second series we're currently recording it, but we already have a few things recorded, is we are now talking to peacemakers who have peacemaking nonprofits or peacemaking groups or ministries, but may not be specifically focused on Muslim and Christian relationships, but still, that we can learn things from them about how they make peace, let's say in their communities, or doing peacemaking, just in different racial reconciliation and things like that. So I think our first one was Cleo Brown, right? Cleo Scott Brown. And she'll be the first one in that series. And that was a phenomenal interview. So I can't wait. There's all these goodies. It's like kind of like Christmas. We've got all these things hidden in the closet, wrapped up, and we're waiting to put them under the tree. But we're holding back. It's really cool. You're just gonna have to wait. Good things are coming down the road in the podcast. So I don't know, what else do we need to talk about?
Mention the inclusion of women and why that's important.
Yeah,
we've seen, just from our own experiences as women, that a lot of times at the table, at the conference, women are not given a seat, or they're not given the ability to speak. And it's mostly male driven in the interfaith, multi-faith world. And we need to be cognizant of who's not at the table. And majority of the time, it's the women who are not there. And so I appreciate the fact that you're making conscious decisions in allowing that to take place, to hear women's voices, to make our voices be heard all around the world, because we do bring a unique perspective on things that makes things a bit different. It changes the dynamics a whole lot when women are involved in projects and in discussions. So I really just wanted to say that I appreciate the fact that you're starting this off with women.
Yeah, thank you.
Amen.
I have a question. This question just in from, it seems, Martin Brooks, who wants to know, Hurannessa, what is your most memorable or favorite performance with your choir? Maybe you should talk a little bit about this choir that you have, and how do you use this choir for peace building?
Yes. Yeah. So when I was approached by the imam of the masjid to start a choir, I looked at him like, what do you mean I'm going to start a choir? And he's like, yeah, I want our mosque to have a choir. And so it's a very controversial issue with a lot of Muslims, but when the imam, who's the head religious leader, tells you to start a choir, and that's because I have a music background. And I said, okay, and that was 2016. And we've been going for about 5 years now. I have about 35 kids, mostly girls, with whom I work with. And there's, 1/3 of them are boys. And majority of the places we get invited to sing and perform are either in churches, in synagogues, and other faith places. We don't usually get invited by the Muslims. And one of my kids was actually happy about that, because I'll tell you a funny story. Normally, sometimes when we go to Muslim events and we perform, the people are talking, they're clanking their forks and spoons, they're not listening. And after the last performance we had at a Muslim event, one of my kids came up to me and said, Miss Huri, I hate performing in front of Muslims. I'm never going to perform in front of Muslims again. They don't listen. They don't do this. She's like, see, when we were at the church last time, they were quiet. They listened. They even gave us a standing ovation. So, you know, when I tell them it's somewhere else, they're all eager to come when it's some Muslim event. They're like, oh, they're not going to listen to us. So we have to change a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
There have been a lot of performances that I feel I've been moved by. I'll mention the two that stuck out to me. One was when I taught them a Hebrew song of peace in Hebrew that they sang at a synagogue in an event for women. It was a women's event. And after they were done singing, these women got up from their seats, went to my kids, started hugging them, crying. They were really moved by it because for them to see American Muslim children sing a Hebrew song of peace at their synagogue, they were never expecting to see in their lifetime, or even having them being moved the way they were. And so they came up to my kids, they thanked them, they hugged them, and my kids were smiling. You know, they felt so important. They felt that they've done something to change people's perspective, and that people can get along even with their differences, and that we can value those differences and work on them to, you know, make the world a better place. And so, you know, that specific event was just so meaningful. And to the point where one of the ladies came up to my kids and said, you guys did so well, you actually sang that song better than our youth choir. And that was it. My kids were like, okay, you know, we got this. You know, we pronounced the words right, we did everything right. So it really built up their confidence. The other one was when we got invited to sing at the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts about a year and a half ago. And that was an extremely moving experience. It was an anti-bullying campaign. And we worked together with St. Francis International School in Maryland. I went there to teach them the Muslim song called Salaam Alaikum. And we changed some of the chorus words to Spanish and to Hebrew. So now you have all these kids who are totally different backgrounds coming together on the stage, singing a song of peace in English, in Arabic, in Hebrew, and in Spanish, and sign language. And so that was a way of using children in doing this kind of work. And I tell everyone that with children, you can't just give them dialogue if you want them to see other people from other faith with respect and actually get them to know them. You have to make it fun. Their attention span is really short, and they need things to motivate them and for it to be interesting. And I found that music has been such a catalyst for that. And I didn't even think of it when I started it. I thought they were just going to perform at according to my kids, but never did I see it turning into what it is now, where you know, churches and synagogues invite us to come and sing, and they give them an honorarium. You know, at the St. Mark's Episcopal Church, that's one of my favorites also. They sing there every year for the end of gun violence in December. And, you know, they send them a bus, they have food for them, they have their VIP room, they have 2 attendants. They are the only choir that gets invited to this event. And the last 2 times Nancy Pelosi came to watch as well. So they got a treat with that. So, you know, when you're trying to do good and you're bringing things that are really resonating with people, and you're including children in that process, it really transcends a lot of the misconceptions people have. I think you're on mute.
So incredible.
I just said something so profound, but I can't remember what it was. No, that's so beautiful, Hurannessa. Wow. I mean, hearing you were describing that Kennedy Center performance, is there a video of that somewhere?
Yes, there is. It's on their website. I have it too, and I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah, it would be great to post that in the podcast group as well,
Yeah.
just so people could see that. It's how beautiful, how powerful, and also just having it be children, you know, who are doing this, because really, if we need to be able to pass these kinds of things down to the next generation, if
Absolutely.
we have any hope.
And not have to wait until we're seniors or we're retired to say, oh, I have time now
Yeah.
to do this type of work. We need to engage the children. And I say this to everyone, that we all have talent. We all have things we can contribute. Figure out what your talent is and try to pull the youth in through that talent, and they will come. You have to make it interesting. You have to keep them engaged, and they will want to keep coming back. My kids love it. They've done so many different things and gone to so many different places that for them they're like, oh wow, we're important. And I tell them, you're Muslim ambassadors as Americans, and that you're the only mosque choir in the whole country. Like, you're setting the way for so many other people who are going to follow in your footsteps, and that really builds their self-esteem as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I can attest to, I've seen Adam's Beat perform live multiple times, and they're just so beautifully talented, and their rendition of Lean on Me is like the best thing I've ever heard. So.
Oh, I love that song. Oh, that's great.
So cool.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Hurannessa.
Just saying, like, every song they do, I have like a personal connection to, but I teach them songs that different generations can actually connect to. And I remember the first time that they sang Stand By Me, the whole audience was like done, you know?
Yeah.
And this was at a church, and they're watching little kids sing Stand By Me who are Muslim, and they just lost it. You know, this guy was standing up, he was singing with them, and they got a standing ovation. So it's important to connect generations through these different ways and means that we really have at our disposal.
That is so beautiful. Wow.
Oh.
I'm a fan, and I haven't even heard you yet.
I'll send you the links.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more. It just sounds so beautiful. So what a wonderful idea.
So great. Well, I did have some fun icebreakers for us to switch gears a little bit, just to get to know you, Hurannessa, a little bit more, and you, Keith, a little bit more, and I can answer too.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, it's not just me and Hurannessa.
So my first question for you is,
Sure.
what is your favorite part of your morning routine that is like the thing that clicks where you're like, okay, today is going to be a good day. Like, I got this, especially during the pandemic.
Okay, there are a lot of different things, but the two that really resonate with me is when I make my bed the right way. I'm a very big, I have a very big thing about making my bed because I like to walk in and see my bed done nicely. And then my cup of tea has to be at the right temperature with the right amount of everything. And that really resonates really well with me. And I feel like, okay, now the rest of my day is going to be perfect.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Well, for me, it's my coffee. I always have to have at least 2 cups of coffee. I even do a little video thing on Facebook sometimes, second cup with Keith. I get my second cup, and then I do a little video thing and talk about stuff. And then I've started doing, taking walks. I'm trying to take a walk around the block every day if I can. And that's just been, it's like a very spiritual thing. It's like I just get outside, I take a walk, and usually the beginning of the walk is like it's like a gratitude. You know what I mean? Before I even get to the end of my street, I'm thanking God for my day. I'm thanking Him for all the blessings. You know, thank you for all these things, and then thinking about the future. And by the time I come home, I usually have. It's a very creative process as well, because usually by the time I come home, I've got like 2 or 3 other new things I want to do. Like, oh, I should do this, and I need to do that, and it kind of helps order my mind for the rest of the day. And so yeah, those things have been really helpful.
That's cool.
So what about you,
Awesome.
Becca?
Yeah, actually, similar to both of you, making my bed and having my first cup of coffee is like, the bed part is really huge, because it's like, no, we're done with that. Now we're going on, it's time for work. And I think also just saying a prayer before, God bless my work, like bless this day and help me to, be productive, and is really great. But my second icebreaker was actually tea or coffee, but we already answered that. So
Yes.
Times I will go for the coffee. I actually love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Like it's my favorite. I don't know about anybody else. Like, people talk about all of these artisan coffee shops and stuff, but I'm like, if I can just get my Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee in their little paper cup, I don't know if it's the cup, it's the tea, what it is, or the coffee that they use, but it's so good. I'll take Dunkin' Donuts over any other brand any day.
Now, I'm good. I have to ask you though, do you also treat yourself to a donut?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
because their donuts are really good too. Fresh
It's,
curler is just, just hits the spot and it kind of like melts in your mouth a little bit
yeah,
the way it goes down. So yeah, definitely the donut. I treat myself if I had a really good day and I felt
yeah,
like I deserve this. I will definitely
yes,
get myself a donut.
yes, yes. You do deserve it. That's right. And it's hard to resist. I mean, you're there anyway, and you can smell the donuts. They smell so good.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
especially when they're right out of the oven. I
Oh
feel like
yeah.
they just have a totally different taste to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take that up anytime.
So good. That's awesome. My next question is, what is your go-to TV show or movie during the pandemic? What has that been?
Okay, so I have actually binge watched a lot of shows, but the one that really I went through like crazy was Expanse on, I think it was Prime. I just fell in love with that show. And I was like, oh, great. It has 5 seasons. I'm going to take my time. I just love space. I love
Yeah.
anything about space, Star Trek, Star Wars, all of those really resonate really well with me. Just growing up watching them also. I could watch those movies over and over again. Ah!
What is that?
These are my little robot friends that I have on my desk. This is the robot from Lost in Space, which I used to love as a kid. This is Robbie the robot, and he was in Forbidden Planet. That's what it was. Yeah.
Awesome.
I love science fiction. I'm a huge science fiction geek.
Awesome. Awesome. So we resonate in that.
Yeah, there you go.
What I did though, I I made a mistake. I started with season 5 thinking it was season 1. So I'm like, I can't wait. This is so cool. Like, and then it's like end of series. I was like, what? End of series.
Should he go back?
To go back. And I still know who got to live.
Right.
So, season 5. And obviously I had to watch the whole thing and see all the other characters that kind of died or went away. Season 5. And I was like, wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to go this way.
Right.
But at least it still gave me 5 seasons to watch. My all-time favorite movie is Top Gun. I don't know why. I just it's the thrill of flying, even though I'm afraid of heights. Watching that movie and the way they maneuver the planes, that rush, I feel like I have it watching it from home. And after I watch, I'm like, yeah, it's exciting. Let's go. Let's do something. But if you ask me to like bungee jump or like, do skydiving, I probably wouldn't take that.
Need for Speed, eh?
Yeah.
Need for Speed, watching somebody else do it.
Right.
Although I would like to go on a hot air balloon ride. That would be cool.
Yeah, that's a little more gentle. Yeah. Yeah.
It's still up there, but like at a pace I can handle. But I think if it was anything else, I'd probably pass out. You have to see me on a plane during turbulence. I'm like holding the chair,
Yeah.
like saying all these prayers, and everyone's looking at me like it's not that bad. I'm like, oh no, for me this is really bad. You don't know who you're dealing with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Better just to see it on the screen instead of
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Because you're safe. You're safe in your chair watching it. Yeah.
Yes. Be like, yeah, you go do that. I'll just watch. It'll give me the high that I need.
What about you, Keith?
Well, I'm a huge science fiction and movie buff. I mean, I love movies, so I don't want to get distracted by the talking about movies. But during the pandemic, Wendy and I started showing my mom. And my mom likes science fiction too. I think I realized that's where I got it from was my mom and dad. They always watched Star Trek and all that kind of stuff. So we showed my mom Firefly series and then the movie Serenity. So we finished that. She loved it. And then now we're watching. We just started season 2. It was a great show and it was kind of obscure. It was called Joan of Arcadia, and it was on CBS. It was like in 2000. What was that? 5 or something. Anyway, it's pretty old, but
I've
It's
seen
about a
that.
teenage girl. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's good.
Oh,
It was great.
I mean, when I say it's good, it's not just good, it's amazing. So it's about this teenage girl and God talks to her. So God will appear to her as different random people and she never knows who it's going to be. But the God will like ask her to do something and never tell her why. And usually she doesn't want to do it. It's something embarrassing or difficult, but in the end, it results in some beautiful healing or some amazing thing happens. You know, relationships are restored or something beautiful happens, and it's just so well done. I gotta say, it's so great because you think you're just watching this little show, but man, they deal with almost every possible question you could deal with. Um, it's just really good, and my mom's loving that as well. So we've been loving that, and then my go-to movie that I'm pretty just obsessed with. If you know me, you already know this, but I'm obsessed with the movie Blade Runner for some reason. If I could pan the camera that way a little bit, you would see a bookshelf filled with all kinds of Blade Runner stuff that I've been collecting. My wife is hoping that I'm finished now. I think I'm mostly finished. But I don't know why. That movie just really grabbed me. It's mostly, I will admit it's not the greatest movie of all time. I know there's other movies that are better than that movie. But to me, it's kind of like a poetry. It's like, it's beautiful to watch. The music is beautiful. Even the dialogue, there's lines of dialogue that come across like poetry. And it's just a work of art to me. That's how it hits me. I just, when I take it all together, I really enjoy that film. And I could watch it 2 or 3 times a year and love it every time. So Becca.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I love how you both have the sci-fi space connection. And I have
wouldn't have known that if you hadn't talked about it. So
You're right. Right.
Great. My go-to TV show has definitely been The Great British Bake Off because
yeah,
I just can't get enough. Like, there's something about that show. It's just so great. I think because it's so collective. Like, it's not super competitive. Like,
right.
There's judgment, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not like Hell's Kitchen,
Yeah. It's British, so even when they don't like it, it's kind of polite, But
right.
Here's what can you explain this to me? This is the part. I love the show too. I've seen it a couple times, but why do they cook outside? No one cooks outside, but they're outside. I don't understand that.
That's what I love about it.
Why?
I don't know.
Go inside and cook in the kitchen. I don't get it.
Isn't it in a tent?
Yeah, they're
It's
outside.
in a tent. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I saw they had to make homemade ice cream. And of course it's all melting because it's hot. and go inside. I don't understand.
It's part of the challenge.
Yeah, I guess. Outdoor cooking. I don't know. That's the part I don't understand.
Oh man, so good. Yeah, and I also go back to Star Wars quite a bit.
Yeah.
With movies. And actually, this is funny. I just watched this is not related to Star Wars at all, but I just watched Soul on Disney Plus. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, I loved it.
Gosh, it was so good.
It was beautiful. Yeah.
Beautifully done movie. So sweet.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I also have to say quickly, I left my wife Wendy and I together. We only really watch one show, and that's This Is Us. I think it's the best show on TV currently. It's so good. Great show.
Yes.
Oh, I gotta
totally
watch that.
agree with you. I think it really pulls in so many factors of the emotions that we don't really get to see in a lot of the other shows.
Yeah.
It resonates with so many people on that level. And I think that's one of the success stories is that it does that. I love that show too. And Keith, just to let you know, I have 2 cats. When we adopted one, she was like 11 at that time. She's 13 now. And she came with the name Yoda. Then we adopted another cat, a male cat, and they kind of look alike, but not different, but he's like 3 times her size and he's only 1.5 years. And we decided to name him Chewy after Chewbacca.
There you go. Yeah.
We have Yoda and Chewy in the house too. So
That's so great. Yeah. And then we've also been showing my mom The Mandalorian because here's the thing. Wendy and I watch The Mandalorian. My mom watches Baby Yoda. What she cares about is where's the baby? What's he doing?
The child.
Oh, he's so cute, right? Yeah. But yeah, we've enjoyed watching that together.
Yes.
That's a good one too. My next icebreaker gets more into peacemaking.
Oh,
It's a little more
we're getting serious now.
serious. Well, I've heard like many a wise peacemakers say that if you're doing it right, you're going to be experiencing pushback, or you're going to have like haters, for lack of a better term, just people, who are maybe, not fully on board with what you're doing, or they don't understand it. They're kind of like pushing back against it. And so I guess like I'm just curious to hear from you, Hurannessa, and you, Keith, and then I can share too. Like, have you seen that come up as you try to, build bridges and bring people together? And how do you respond to that, or how have you learned to kind of manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I think we all run into in the line of work that we're in, especially as peace builders. I'll give an example of this lady who decided to come to Adams. So we're about an hour, not even an hour, 45 minutes away from the West Virginia border. And so she called me at Adams and said, "Hey, I've never been to a mosque. I'm an evangelical Christian. I've never seen Muslims, but I really want to come and see your place and meet you guys. But you should know that I'm really scared." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure. When do you want to come?" So I met her that day at Adams. She was very hesitant. She looked very scared and very, reserved in her demeanor because she didn't know what was going to happen. So I walked her in, and she's just like, "Oh, you have a nice building." I don't know what she was expecting. She's just like, "Oh, and like, you speak English really well. Like, are you a convert?" And like, she was just asking all these interesting questions. Like, "No, I was born into a Muslim family. I came here when I was really young." And then she's like, "I have to tell you that my husband did not want me to come." And so then I asked, "Well, what would be the reason why would your husband not want you to come?" Even though I think I kind of knew why he would say that. And her response was, I because he thinks you're going to try to convert me. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, it's Tuesday. We convert everyone on Thursday, so you're fine." And her eyes just like bulged up, like, "What?" Like, I missed it by 2 days. I was like, "I'm just joking. Like, we don't convert people here. Like, that's not our mission." I just wanted to kind of like put her at ease through a joke. And after that, she calmed down a lot. And so I gave her a tour. We sat down, we talked some more. And she was just so different from the time she came and the time she left. But if she hadn't opened up her door and her reservation to wanting to come, and if I hadn't said, "No, I don't want you to come," or if I had closed the door and said, "We don't want you coming," that interaction would have never happened. And I'm pretty sure that her coming made such a difference in her perception of people that she told me, I want to come back. I'm going to bring my friends because I really need them to see this and see how you guys do things and how you pray and how we're so alike in so many different in the different ways that we are different, because we are different in certain things, right? And we need to appreciate that. And so I said, "Yeah, bring them anytime." For me, I get a lot of resistance when people don't know me. They have their own perception of who I am. They make judgment based on what they know from TV. And my job is always to counter that. So I actually tend to gravitate towards people who don't want to talk to me. Those are the people I go to. I had an atheist guy come once to me, and he like berated me with all these things. And I just listened. I just listened to him, let him say whatever he had to say, and then I gave him some verses in the Quran, and he literally flipped in like 2 seconds. I said, "I don't care if you're an atheist. Tell me, how are you going to help me address the food insecurities in our county?" And he was like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, I thought you were going to attack me back the way I attacked you." I said, "That's not my style." I said, "You have grievances, and I completely understand that. They're coming from somewhere, so let's talk about it, and let's address them so that you can understand who we are from the right perspective, instead of having a confrontation and you said, he said, and you're right and I'm wrong kind of thing. We're not going to do that. I don't participate in that kind of conversation at all." But the fact that I listened to him, he felt so heard because he had his own grievances. He was hurt in some situation. He felt that he didn't have a voice. But when I let him speak and I allowed him to say his piece, and then I addressed it in a very respectful and civilized way, he really appreciated that. And then he asked me to come on his podcast, his atheist podcast, to talk about peace building. I said, yeah, sure, anytime.
That's
Let me
great.
know. I'm still waiting for the invitation. But the fact that his perspective changed just within that conversation
Yeah.
was exactly what I intended. So it's making sure you understand who you're talking to. What was the second part of the question? Sorry, Becca. I kind of
That's so good. No, I think you covered it. It was just kind of like, how do you respond? And I love what you're saying about how you kind of just gave him a chance to share without like just listening, and then,
yeah.
you know,
I think even people who who are Islamophobes or have anti-Semitism, they still need to be heard.
Yeah.
Some people don't agree with me on this, but I'm a big proponent of listening to people's stories and listening to their grievances and listening to their perspective. How else would I know how to address them if I don't know what they have an issue with?
Right.
So I do sit down and I'll give them all the time in the world and listen to what they have to say. Sometimes they even share personal stuff with me that for me, it's like, oh, wow, that's really personal. But hey, if you felt comfortable enough to tell me that, then we can definitely move ahead in building this bridge and working together. Right. Again, it's being open, listening to people. People are coming from hurt. They're coming from preconceived notions that aren't part of reality. But if we're not open and we have stands in front of us and walls, it's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah. That's
so
absolutely
good.
right, Hurannessa. I think you're absolutely right. Like that listening is such a key basic thing. Like if we can't do that, we can't, how can we have a conversation? How can we have a dialogue? And even if the other person is starting out from a place of making the wrong assumptions and sort of lumping everyone together, all Muslims are blank, or whatever, it's like, you can't possibly know that. And especially because you probably don't actually know any real Muslims. I mean, that's usually what I've noticed is when people make those kind of sweeping statements about groups of people, they're talking about people they don't really know personally, deeply. And so, yeah, if we will start by listening, then maybe it gives them an opportunity to say, okay, you listen to me, maybe now I'll listen to you, right? That's the hope, I think. I was on a call yesterday. I was on a Clubhouse. I mean, there's Clubhouse is this new thing. You have an iPhone, you can be on. And if you need an invitation, I've got like 6 of them. So let me know and I'll happily invite you to Clubhouse. So, but Clubhouse it's almost like it's basically a glorified conference call because it's all, it's just a call. It's all audio. There's no video and it's not recorded. So if you're not there live to hear it, it goes away and you'll never get it back. So it's very strange, but I was on this Clubhouse call and the topic was Jesus without religion or politics. And the whole point was, can we just talk about Jesus without politics and without sort of religion and doctrine? And we're not trying to sell you something and get you to join a club or, become a Christian or anything like that. And so it was wonderful. It was a great conversation. And there was a Muslim woman who jumped in and she was on the platform. So she got to speak. And she just shared about how much, as she is a Muslim, how much she loved Jesus. And when she and I talked together about, the beautiful things that are about Jesus in the Quran and the things that Christians and Muslims agree on. And it was wonderful. It was, that part of it was great. And I shared about how to the Christians in the group, I said, that to me, there's 2 paths we can take when we approach conversations with Muslims, okay, as Christians. And one path, is a path where we focus on our differences. You don't believe this and we do, and you don't do this, but we do, and you don't accept this, but we do. And you start off noticing and focusing on what our differences. And understand that if that's the path you start off on, that path, we know where that path goes. That path will lead to an argument. It'll lead to conflict. And we know historically, if we continue on that path, it leads to violence and many other bad things. So I would say, as a follower of Jesus, who is the Prince of Peace, who gave us a ministry of reconciliation, maybe we shouldn't be on that path. But there's another path. Here's the good thing. And the other path, it focuses on what we have in common. And it focuses on the things we share, which in the case of Christians and Muslims is Jesus, which is awesome. Now, we don't agree on everything, but the things we agree on are significant and good. And if we start with that, well, then that will lead to conversation and dialogue and learning and acceptance and friendship and peace. That's where that path will lead. The other path will never lead us to peace. It's only going to keep us focused on the conflict and the disagreement and deciding who's right and wrong and who wins or loses. And anyway, so I said all that on this Clubhouse call, and then a gentleman jumped on who was a Christian, and he rambled, I would say, for probably another 10 minutes, and he went straight on that other path. But Christians believe this, and Muslims believe that, and we believe this, and they don't believe what we believe. And he basically demonstrated what I just said was the other path. But we listened to him, we let him go, we let him talk, And then my response to him was, I understand your passion. I thank you for sharing that with us. But again, that seems to be the other path. That if we stay on that path, it's not ever going to lead us to peace. And I prefer to take this path that leads to peace. So I try to respond in a way. Again, we let him talk. We listen to him talk. And then I try to point out. Well, I would just wanted to encourage him to try to take this other path because it seems like he hadn't tried that yet. But yeah, that was just something that happened recently.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, I think that's I love what you're saying about the two paths. Like there's two paths you can take, and which one is life-giving and which one is going to lead to peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which one is going to lead the opposite direction.
Right. And I say that sometimes because I just want people to stop and notice sometimes, which path am I on right now? You know what I mean? Because I think early on that other path, you kind of don't realize it. You don't realize that's where you're headed. You think, oh, I'm just talking. But no, you're right now you're on this other path, and it's only going to lead to more conflict. It's not going to lead to peaceful conversation. So hopefully that helps people. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and I'll just share briefly, but I know for me it's as an Enneagram 9, I hate conflict and try to avoid it at all costs. So peacemaking is really hard for me because it does bring up existing conflicts that maybe we're not aware of or we don't see or we don't get to hear all the time. And when you're trying to bring people together across various differences, there's going to be conflict, but to understand that that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's about how do you manage that conflict and kind of what you both have demonstrated, and especially your example, Hurannessa, of turning that conversation around and being able to meet people where they are and have conversations and listen and encourage them to listen in return and to be able to that is peacemaking. So yeah, I just encourage to hear both of you share, and it's a journey. It's a learning journey.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I think that's important too, to recognize that all of this is a journey. It's we're all learning how to be peacemakers, and I think this is my hope for the podcast, is that by having these conversations from a variety of people who approach peacemaking from both sides and in different ways, whether it is Muslims and Christians or Christians and Muslims, or whether it's racial reconciliation, whether it's conflict with gangs in the inner city, or whatever it happens to be, it is a journey. There's not a light switch we can just flick it on or off and ding, we fixed it. I mean, I wish, but it does take time, and it is a journey, and it does involve working together. And then working together is also important because it places us, or I think it should place us, in a place of humility and vulnerability, where every time we're partnering with somebody else, we're acknowledging the fact that I have something to learn here. I don't have it figured out, and if you can help me, maybe I'd love to help you, and together, we can do this. And so it's the collaboration and the cooperation and the togetherness of it is what makes it work. I mean, and that's what we're trying to accomplish anyway. If nothing else, for example, Becca and Hurannessa, just the fact that the two of you are coming together and working together side by side to bring peace in your community, well, that's already a win, because we have a Christian and a Muslim working together for peace. There you go. I mean, you're already modeling the thing that we want to create more of. So
And we come with our differences, right? Our
Yes.
differences makes us unique. And we need people to understand that when we're engaging them, we want them to have their differences because that's what makes them them. If they were like me, that would be so boring. And
Right.
it would just be like a person I'm talking to, it would be myself, right? There would be nothing that would excite you in terms of learning more about that person because you already know everything. And so I think that bringing that conversation into the fold and letting people know that you accept them for everything they are coming with, you understand them and you respect them, it goes a really long way. And people realize that the humanity of who we are is at the forefront. A lot of times we forget about that, right? We forget that we're talking to another human being who has a lot of life issues. Those are things that really resonate with them. They're going through hardship, they've lost their job. Now with Corona, it's become so difficult for people, but we need to be there for one another. We need to help each other in these times. We can talk all we want, but if we're not there for each other, then everything we're saying is meaningless. I'm more about action than words. And so when I say I want to do something, I try to fulfill that as best I can. Words, anyone can say words, but when you're in it and you're actually working towards reviving a community or bringing people together, it takes a lot of effort and action. So
Yeah,
work to be done.
so true. I can't wait for everyone listening now to hear Hurannessa's episode on the podcast.
It's so good.
So good.
It's up today. Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been great. Hurannessa, thank you for joining us and spending time with us and helping us launch the podcast. Thank you for being our guinea pig to be our first person in the seat to let us try our skills at interviewing you. And you have a beautiful story and a beautiful ministry, and very excited about what you're doing and to promote that. We will share all those things as well. Other links to your choir and things in the podcast group. So I guess we should say, if you're watching this and you don't know, we also have a Facebook group dedicated to the podcast. So maybe we could post a link to that as well here, and invite you to join us there. And so if you join that Facebook group, you'll always know when a new episode is out as well. We'll also post bonus material there in that Facebook group as well. And can't wait for you to hear the new podcast. Excited for this. After the first series is done, we have, like I said, a second series. Like we have Shane Claiborne set up. We're going to interviewing him in a couple of weeks, and some other people we've lined up. So excited for that series going forward. And by the way, any suggestions, if you're a listener and you love the podcast, I'm like, hey, you should talk to this person or that person, please, we'd love recommendations for new people to interview. And Becca just posted the Facebook group there in the comments. So thank you, Becca.
Yeah. And make sure you go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, listen to Hurannessa's episode. It's released today. So go take a listen.
Awesome.
I'm excited. And I want to congratulate Peace Catalyst and both of you on a job well done and taking this on. I'm so excited to see what the future of this podcast is going to bring for peace building. And I don't think they could have picked two better people to host this. So I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to bring. Can't wait to listen to all the episodes.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah. Can't
all
wait.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Hurannessa. Thank you, watchers, listeners. Becca, thank you so much. And we'll see you over on the podcast, I guess.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Bye.